All right, I'll call this meeting to order, and we have the minutes from September 14th and 19th, but we can't vote on the 19th because only 3 of us were here and one of the members is absent. So the minutes from September 14th.
I'll move that we approve the minutes from our September 14th Select Board meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Then we have bills for payment. We have warrant 7 and the payroll 7P.
I'd move approval of warrant 7 and 7P.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Warrant 7 is for a total of $149,387. A little change. There's $30,080 going to A.S. Clark for partial payment on the Tucker Reed Bridge. There are tax refunds going to different people that has to do with their filing date and the state payments on prebates. So we have payroll transfers. We have $67,000, looks like $178 that went for repaving. The sheriff's contract for the month of August. His department gave us just under 33 hours of coverage. So that's how we get to 149,000 and some change. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Let's see, signing. Now, are there any visitors who would like to comment publicly?
Right, I'm a visitor.
Okay.
And I must say, this is a historic select board meeting. While I don't come to very many, this is the first time when only the select board and one visitor is here.
Okay.
I think that's
Makes you very special, Bill.
remarkable, right?
Okay.
And to see such an agreeable body.
And
So,
you know all of us,
I
and
know all of you.
you are Bill Schmidt, just for our
Right.
viewers around the world.
So I'm here on behalf of Dummerston Cares, an organization that the board over the years since it was founded in 2005 has been supportive of. Dummerston Cares is at a historic turning point too, in a way, because its founder, Shirley Perkins, who with Jean Momaney in recent years has been its mainstay. Shirley moved to Middlebury in May, so with her departure, there was interest on her part in particular that a new group, others take over to continue Cares and strengthen it in some way. So what's happened since May is that we've had some public or semi-public informational meetings on Cares, and out of that evolved an organizational working group that in 3 months' time, 4 meetings, completed non-profit incorporation status with the state. We approved bylaws, elected a board and officers last week. So, and we have submitted application for IRS 501c3 status and expect to receive that within 2 to 3 weeks. So we're at the point of turning our attention to services and programs now, recognizing that the main purpose of CARES is to serve residents, all residents, not just the elderly, but all residents with health needs and wellness issues, and look to not only assist individuals, but enhance the development of community in the town, as Grafton Cares does. That's one of its major purposes, encouragement of community in Grafton and Athens. That's a two-town cares. So the programs that we've had over the years until now will continue. The helpline telephone, which people can call and get directed to services that may be helpful, hopefully will be helpful. The heat fund, which provides fuel assistance to folks who need it in the wintertime. Informational programs. These will continue, and we're looking into some new programs like medical equipment loans, friendly visitors, possibly medical assistance through a town nurse, which program Westminster Cares and Guilford Cares has. And this would be assistance to people who have no other access to health services. Programs like a home maintenance chores assistance, mainly for the elderly, end-of-life planning, and some social and recreational programs. These are some of the programs we're looking into. CARES has always appreciated some town support. There will be more effort to secure donations from folks in town, and we're looking into possibly an annual appeal and grants from some foundations and other bodies. So here's what I've said is summarized in even more detail in this handout. We wanted you to know that CARES is alive and well, and the board members are listed at the bottom. 6 of us now, and there's room for 3 more as programs and services develop, and we seek people who are particularly interested in each new service, especially as it comes online. So.
Great,
Sounds like you're
you're on a roll.
We're on a roll.
That's
Yeah.
great, Bill, well, thanks.
right, yes.
Well, we think,
Congratulations.
it's one of 8 CARES groups in the county, and this is the only county in Vermont where there are active CARES groups as such.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I know that in Marlboro, after we had the flood with Irene, the Marlboro Cares Group called every single person in town that, could have been affected, and they had the lists to be able to do that, and I was just really impressed.
yeah, they've done a lot. They've
Yeah,
got
so
something-
I'm not, I haven't heard of people who have benefited from it, and I haven't seen marketing or promotion of Dummerston Cares, so I'll definitely keep my eyes open and.
Yeah, that's one of the real needs is to relate to the Vermonter in need, because most people are independent, private, and they're not gonna come forward.
Right.
I've had 3 instances over the summer where I've dealt directly myself with such people who had needs, and
didn't speak up.
and either they or a neighbor or
Mhm.
in one instance, one of these 3 called directly, and the others, I heard about them
Mhm.
through a neighbor, a relative.
So are you aware of that platform called the Front Porch?
Yeah.
'Cause
I've
that's
never
something
used
that
it, but
the-
that's a good idea.
The Dummerston Cares might wanna just look into that
Yeah,
and see
yeah.
what the relationship might
Yeah.
be of the Front
Yeah.
Porch with Dummerston, because it is a
That's good.
community network of
Yeah.
a certain.
We want to get as
Fine.
much word out as we can, so in
Yeah.
every views from now on, there will be an
Good.
article on CARES starting in the November
Great,
views, and, so,
Good.
good.
alright.
All right,
Okay.
thanks, Bill.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Bill.
So, next on our agenda, must be looking for a parking space, so we'll move on. The road foreman's report, and the road foreman not being here.
Excuse
We could say that the Tucker Reed Road Bridge is looking good, is what I hear.
Is it, so they were supposed, the minutes say that they were supposed to pour on Friday, last Friday? Or no,
a week
a week ago Friday?
Yeah, and they did.
Uh-huh, that was on
And
schedule.
looks like it's coming along. And you were there just the other day.
I was, yeah, so it's in, the deck has been poured, and we're talking to Archie. He is, I think weather is still, and Friday, he was hoping to have it close to open by Friday, this
Wow.
Friday. So,
Yeah, we were aiming for October 1st, weren't we?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I volunteered Zeke to cut the ribbon, they could put some.
Great.
Yes, I'm
You
working
got
on
some
my
big,
speech.
big
I put some
scissors?
My top
construction-
hat, yes.
Yeah, so some red construction
Top hat
tape, and then
and-
we'll put across.
Uh-huh.
Right,
Yeah.
a little parade first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
parade like the picture in the bathroom. I
Yes,
love that
exactly.
photograph. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no,
So,
looks good.
we also told us that the crack sealing project went well, and was completed. He was pleased with the results, and we'll see how it holds up.
Right, and there was a statement that we weren't sure how far it was gonna go and that it might not do 100% of the roads or cracks that needed it. So do we have a sense of what percentage was
Yes,
completed?
yes, it was all done,
100%.
100%.
200% actually, because they were able to do this side of East-West Road as well.
Also,
Wow.
wow,
Okay.
great.
Yeah, and I admired that when I came up this morning,
Wow,
the job that they
great.
did, so hopefully.
Good, let's hope that it holds up. We got just today an email from a resident concerned about gravel washing into the east-west road and being a hazard to motorcyclists and travelers just by the Salmon River Bridge. So I think we'll wait for Lee to be here and we can discuss that further. So Michelle Cherrier is here, our representative, one of our representatives to the Wyndham Solid Waste Management District, Western Dunkley being the assistant representative.
My alternate, and he
Yes,
will be,
alternate is the
he
proper
will
term.
be, attending the November meeting in my stead, because I won't be able to be there, and I'm
Okay.
sad to say that's true, because so much happens now between,
The budget is
September,
getting
October, November. November's an important month. At any rate, we're here today, it's still just barely September, and the finance committee at the Waste District has been meeting now. I forgot if they started in August, they certainly were well in gear in September. They have already presented 2 versions to the board of the budget. And they're presenting possibly a 3rd tonight. If I had not had this appointment with you folks, I would have been there for that meeting too, although I only attend for information, not because I'm on that committee.
Mhm.
I should tell you now, each of the versions will result in an increase of assessment to member towns.
I'm not surprised.
Yes. And it will be more than we saw last year and the year before. However, until I think there's a decision made by the Board of Supervisors, I can't even give you any idea of what percentage they're talking about, because there's been so much being added and subtracted and talked about. There are a variety of considerations for this year's budget. The first is continue with operations and business as usual. The second is to continue only the convenience center operations, where they have a scale and they have hazardous waste drop-off and, batteries and tires and so forth. and then become a transfer station, which means to cease the operations as the material recovery facility, and that would mean ceasing the collection and the trucking of all of the recycling roll-off bins. Both of those scenarios will, of course, remove, or that particular change will remove both expenses and revenues, and as I say, I had heard they were going to talk about a third version. I do not have details as of tonight. And additionally, at the last meeting by the Board of Supervisors, the Executive Director may issue a request for a proposal to an independent entity to see what would they charge to operate that MRF. And that could mean a possibility of improving the assessment to the member towns, although I'm not sure that would be the case. I mean, labor costs are labor costs, and so are trucking costs. And I will point out now, of course, that as business people, everybody knows that the idea is you don't just cover your costs, you hopefully make a little. And, that's the way the business model works. Now, in the case of the waste district, that being a municipality, it's not called a nonprofit, but its only purpose is to serve its member towns, so it is not looking to make over and above. So in that way, I kind of think of it as a nonprofit, in that it's not looking for ways to get ahead. However, that means it may not be as competitive as some independent entities. Be that as it may, I don't have a specific number for you to plug in, and I actually have not noticed if you've already started your
No,
budget.
we're on the cusp, we're quivering on the edge of going into budget season.
And it's
We're
here.
waiting for the leaves to turn color first, then that, and the geese to fly.
I
and
don't
then we'll go
know,
into
my
the
leaves are
budget.
falling and they're still green, Zeke, so. Well, I will also mention at this point, since the implementation of Act 148, the district has noted a considerable increase in the contamination that's in the recycling roll-off containers that are primarily at the 24/7 sites, of which we're one. But it also happens at transfer station towns too. And at this point, the loads are being monitored by the staff, and methods to reduce contamination were discussed by the Board of Supervisors. Some discussion actually turned into action because, of course, Brattleboro put in cameras at least a year, if not 2 years ago, and Putney's had a terrible time. They're like us, they're 24/7. A lot of people go in there, and so they get a lot of interesting stuff in their roll-offs. And there's also the stuff that's outside, that other factor that's in our long-term viability of the district maintaining the recycling containers and the pickup services. That's also a part of the cost of, continuing what's happening with business as usual. Now, I know from our highway foreman, Lee Chamberlain, and from our town clerk, Lori, that the highway crew here in Dummerston's been keeping our roll-off bin site cleared of rubbish. And they just put it in the town trash roll-off. And the same is true for other 24/7 sites. So one way or another, the town's paying for trash. And the original theory of most of the board members was to put in, cameras and see if people can be identified. Some people in Brattleboro have been caught, they've been fined. It's unclear what is the future of having unattended 24/7 boxes. It may be that the district ends up saying, gosh, we recommend, a locked-in area, perhaps the investment in making a transfer station, none of which all our 24/7 towns, including us, have been willing to invest in. It's an investment. So that kind of plays into what's happening with the budget. So there's a lot feeding into that.
If I could just ask Michelle, I think I understand that, but when you say contamination, what you mean by that is people, just throw a bag of trash in. Right, okay.
Correct.
It's not like they didn't completely wash their bottles out.
Or maybe it's not even in a bag. Maybe
Right.
it's just trash.
Right.
So it's a lot of work
Yep.
to sort it out by the time it gets on the sorting line.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of work in general for that crew. Now, another big part of the budget is going to be the method of assessment for the towns. That was a big, big matter for discussion for more than 6 months, because the district assesses based on population. That's the only way it's ever assessed, from my understanding in history. Now, of course, all of us in Vermont, we know that the grand list is the valuation method that's used to determine municipal taxes within each town. So really much different basis for valuation. So our population assessment method, of course, was questioned by the largest paying town, Brattleboro, and they asked for the research into, can you just, let us pay for the services we use, fee for service. And those results I have reported back to you. That particular committee reported back and said fee for service isn't cost effective. It isn't. I mean, we saw the numbers. It doesn't make sense. However, that alternative funding committee had provided an assessment comparison. Other methods included just staying with 100% population, or 100% based on a grand list, do the same towns do, or 100% housing units, or do 50-50, do a hybrid assessment that's based on half population, half the grand list of their town, or go 75-25, which is do 75% of the assessment based on population and 25% based on the grand list of each town.
May I interrupt? So when it's based on population, so Dummerston has a high percentage of year-round residents. Some of the other towns in the county, in the district, have higher percentage than us of seasonal.
Yeah,
And
very much
so when they're making the assessment, they're not adding in those seasonal,
No.
just the year-round residents.
Correct.
Ah, okay.
So there's always a flaw in every method.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it, exactly. It's very flawed. And worse than that, it means that a town like Brattleboro, they have a huge population that's year-round all the time, so they've been carrying the weight of the most assessment. And I understand why they asked for, look at another method for doing this. Now, consideration is being given by the Finance Committee and then eventually by the board for implementing a hybrid method of assessment, and I believe that the 75-25 method is a little more realistic to divide the cost of waste services between the member towns, and it diminishes the impact of changes in population, which not many people have given a lot of voice to, but it does happen. And then it also doesn't overburden any town that has a particularly higher grand list, which a lot of them around here do. Well, excuse me, a few of them around here do. So that's all coming into play in terms of what's happening with the budget.
And what that would address, of course, is the seasonal folks
Yeah.
would be included.
More so than they are now.
Yeah, exactly, right.
And some of the folks that were sitting around me at the table thought, well, the 75-25 is probably a good solution to start with, because it is, not a terrible shock, but it does take into account the same valuation that towns use, so they'll understand it, and, their residents will understand that basis too. Time will tell. Things that I haven't written here, of course, are just the aging of the plant, the change of how recycling's being done, how it's mandated by the state, and what doesn't get recycled anymore and is considered trash, and the increasing expenses to do it the way that it's being done by this district. And I'm going to point out again that the district is always going to be probably the cheapest option, because they're not in business to compete or to make a profit. They're just in business to provide the services necessary. So,
But I wonder if they're providing them as efficiently as, that's the question, I
Well,
suppose.
I'm not sure what part would be made more efficient unless the plant was replaced
Mm.
with, you know, new equipment. And the question is, should it be dual stream or single stream? That same old question that it's always been. And single stream costs a bloody fortune. And anyone who opens and runs a single stream facility is always looking for material. So they're out there super competing. And it makes sense. They need a lot of material. But as we know from experience, their output is less than ideal. I mean, it gets sold to somebody, but it's not as good as the output that might once have been available or still is through dual stream. And so dual stream hasn't disappeared.
But Michelle, I thought you told us that one of the whole problems, of course, is that material prices are down so much.
They are.
So why
Why
would,
the good stuff compared to not so good stuff?
Well,
What's the difference?
Well, that's a good question, because of course, we're only trying to sell good stuff.
right,
You know, I mean, it is true that market went away for the 3s through 7s in plastic. And of course, glass has no value.
Right.
So, it's had some modification and gone up a little, but that means that those same market forces are driving the single stream people too.
well,
So,
well, if the material prices are down, why would the single stream folks, want more volume?
that's a better way to make more money and keep their base prices covered. They want as much as they can feed those facilities,
Okay,
as much as the facility can handle. I do not have specific facts in regards to how efficient these plants are at this time.
mhm.
But my impression is that they never run, you know, even at 80%, probably less than that. I mean, I've been to 3 of them, I've seen how they work.
And Zeke, was your comment about how efficient it is that we're doing it locally as opposed to,
No,
oh,
By hand?
I was just wondering,
Oh.
let's see,
It was whether a commercial operation,
Yes,
you know, would
yes.
have more of an incentive, if you will, to,
Oh,
yeah,
to be as efficient as possible in
Right.
every aspect of the,
right, given a profit motive.
well, in this case, it's a little more than profit motive, I think, that runs that place, because these are people who want to keep their job, and they're directly involved in that, as
Mhm.
opposed to employees.
employees generally wanna keep their
They
jobs
do.
also.
They do,
I do.
yes, they do. But they're not nearly as linked to,
Hmm.
you know, the real face-to-face communication and being, having the business run by a board, as opposed to, you know, a couple of people at the top, although
Yes,
some big businesses
I've
have
been
boards.
to some of the board meetings and,
Mhm.
you know, so my question still remains about efficiency and, wondering if, you know, a more of a business approach might,
It's possible.
yeah.
One thing's for sure is, I would imagine anybody who comes in and gives a quote to Bob Spencer is likely to want to look at a contract, and not a short-term one either. Now, that's good because it means that, you know, the price will stay the same for the length of the contract. But it also may not be beneficial, because then at the end of that, they're much more likely to simply say, well, it's gonna cost us X and so to run it now. And they are not nearly as likely to take into account that the member towns are unable to support that through assessment. So it's hard to say what the outcome would be. I have only heard in passing, in conversations around the table, from some of the folks that are still around, that were around, you know, 20 years ago, where there had been a time when some portion of the business had been done by outside contract. and that it was a nightmare, is my recollection of how it was referred to, but I don't know specifics for that.
So I've heard that there are some towns that are considering a vote to withdraw from the district. Is that just
Correct.
idle gossip? Or
No, no,
am I
no.
hearing-
It's not idle. On August 9th, the town of Winhall voters approved to withdraw the town of Winhall from the district, and they may join another district that's on the west side of the state. Or they may research and write their own solid waste implementation plan, their own SWIP. My understanding is that they may have a person that is an employee. Do not quote me on this, I do not know this myself as a fact. I only overheard that they may have someone there who has experience and may be able to do it, to write the SWIP, and perhaps even administer it. That I'm not sure. But Winhall won't be included in the upcoming budget calculations, or any of the other towns that may consider leaving. And almost any one of them are the most distant towns, and the ones that have, as you pointed out, you know, a very part-time population. And I can't imagine that they would all write their own SWIPs. It's really a lot of work to administer. I mean, and that's the entire purpose for this district, is to be able to do that kind of stuff. However, Winhall is leaving, to the best of my knowledge. Now, one thing that I can say in our favor is that the solar power on the landfill, that lease has been approved. I think that's already known, it was signed, the project is proceeding. Then the developer had the meetings, and I want to thank both Hugh and Geraldine for going. It was wonderful to see folks come, and of course then Alex was there, and Julian, and so and we got to have two different kinds of conversations at each meeting.
Michelle
It
went
was
to
helpful.
both.
Yeah, it was helpful. So.
We have very good Dummerston representation.
Oh, yeah, well, I have to say that Dummerston was the best represented town because of everybody that came. Everybody was provided with the sample agreement so that it can be reviewed for group net metering, and I believe you had been scheduled to talk about it at the last select board meeting on the 12th, which I wasn't on that agenda, and I don't think you did. It's on tonight's, however, right?
Right.
Well, we
Just
approved,
an update.
just letting Encore take a look and give us the recommendation, so that's what they're doing right now.
Oh, good,
Yep.
okay. I mean, I encourage both the town and the school to participate, because this is a reduction of electrical cost, as you both heard, you know, for the long-term benefit of taxpayers. It's the only use for the land, for that capped landfill, really good use for it. And it'll be generating electricity for at least the 20 years that it's signed up for, even maybe 25, if it gets extended, and that'll be long after we all retire from our positions from the town. But, you know, it really does take into account future generations. So that is one good part of what is happening there at that district that will continue to happen.
So on that, maybe you're gonna cover it, but they were talking about the lease payment and how they were gonna use it, and it was kind of left up to whatever the board was gonna decide. So
Yeah,
have they come, is that lease payment gonna be used to offset?
I think it's too
Cost for
soon
the
to
towns?
tell you, because I think it's too soon to know if it's realistic to keep the actual MRF operation of it, you know, plodding along, and the trucking part, or if it should just become a transfer station. I mean, it may have reached the end of its useful life. So, you know, we have seen this coming for, you know, quite a number of years now, and I'm sure for as long as I've been sitting here talking to whoever's been here, you know, I've alluded to the fact that it's not a sure bet unless all the towns really say they have to keep this service right there, or if there's really gonna be a market change that will make it so that the district has to change its method of doing business. And we are moving ever closer to trying to make that determination. But it hasn't made itself clear yet as to what is the best choice. So everybody's ears are open. All of the representatives should be sitting down like this and talking with their select boards, because, you know, it will change. It will have to change. Either it gets upgraded, which would probably not be the first choice. It's not a large building. And, or it moves into simply just closing that part of it, privatizing that part of it. It's unclear, unclear, but certainly I'll keep you as informed as I can for as often as I can, even if it's just memos by email.
That'd be fun.
So,
Great.
for anyone who wants to take the time, you know, just from select board business, that the important meetings are happening in October, November, and December. So, you know, I welcome everyone to be an additional set of ears and to give more opinion. You all do talk to and hear from residents a great deal more than I do. So I really depend on your input to know how best to represent the town. You know, there have been no big problems, no big mistakes. Probably the best thing that came along was the solar deal, and it's happening. And it's a good thing, not just for Dummerston, but for the entire region. And for the state, too. I didn't have anything else specific except a couple of things about the website. And I don't know who to direct them to.
Well, why don't you put them out there and
Okay.
see?
The last select board meeting minutes that I didn't attend, I think from the 12th or 14th, are not posted.
They are now.
Are they? Thank you.
I did it this afternoon.
Because I was going to read them, just to see what you said. Or, you know, have some idea without watching the entire taped, you know, BCTV. So that, of course, is dictated by Vermont law. It has to be
Yes,
done
we know that.
within X number of days. And so one of your constituents noticed that it wasn't there after 2 weeks. The other thing is that when I went today, for an entirely different reason, to look at some zoning district maps, all those links fail. Every one of them. And again, I'm happy to, you know, bring it to the right person who's gonna make the changes happen. I won't take up your time if it's not the right thing to tell you.
I think we've got someone that will take care of it.
I'll check with Kevin, because those are links to Wyndham Regional,
Yeah, they're
So maybe-
error 404s.
right? It may be something with their
Yeah.
website.
At the very least, I know from my prior business experience, it's okay if it doesn't work as long as it says, you know, sorry, this has been taken offline, or something useful, instead of just blap, a big error screen coming up at you. I don't think that we impress our residents when we see that. I will also be making some recommendations for a couple things I'd like to see on the website, but I'll send those to Lori, because I think they're worth it.
Good.
What else can I tell you?
I was gonna say Kevin and Ryan, I think, would be quite receptive as well.
But it should come through this, I think
I
it
was
should
gonna
come through the
say, it
select
has
board
to.
or the
Yep.
town
Through the
office
select
before it
board's
goes to
review.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right,
was gonna
but Kevin
say,
has been a great volunteer
Yes.
in
yeah,
doing the website.
and it's been wonderful. And like so many things that happen, we're lucky to have folks who are willing to put their time in.
Yes.
So I thank you for your time, for listening to me. I'm sorry I don't have more substantive information to give you in terms of exact numbers, but when it looks like there's something to report, I certainly will let you know.
Okay, and to send us little email bulletins would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good to know what the issues are and what people are wrestling with. It helps us, you know, build a context for what's coming down the pike.
Well, it's closer than we think,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is.
Right, like the objects in the
Yeah.
mirror.
I like that, yes.
Interesting, Michelle, you talked about the town of Winhall withdrawing
Yeah.
And of course, then now the fixed costs get divided among, fewer players. But because they have a lot more seasonal residents, one could say that they're, being undercharged, and as well given the distance. I understand you're charging them the same as Dummerston, whereas we're a lot closer, so.
Yes. Yes, that, that's the age-old issue, and it goes for who drives on our roads, who goes to our schools, who polices our communities. It's services that a town can't live without, and it's difficult to figure out the best way to assess and charge for what that value is, because it has to be done.
And wasn't one of the first things you said in one of the budgets they're considering doing away with the roll-offs?
Just the entire material recovery facility part of the operation.
Right, well, how would that, how can you resolve that with Act 46? I mean, doesn't that require recycling?
It requires
It's not Act
residents.
46, it's Act
148.
148.
148, I'm sorry.
And residents must recycle. That's the bottom line.
So it's up to the
It's up
individual.
to the
So
individuals.
it'd be-
and the
You need to
businesses.
hire,
And trash haulers do
triple
it,
T or trash hauler.
or the facility would become a transfer station.
Correct.
Right, so
I see,
you'd have to
okay.
go
That's how that
further.
would work.
I see.
Which is the way haulers do it now.
Mhm.
They just pick it all up and take it to their choice of transfer station. Regrettably, it mostly isn't us, but, it's a free market enterprise, so. Yes, and I realize that, from all the time I've heard from residents, they really like this method. They like not having to have it picked up by somebody whose services they may not use right now. A lot of people I talk to just don't use a hauler to take away their trash. And they're used to just picking up and bringing their own recycling to, the roll-off bins. So that would be a big change. But it's inevitable. There will be change, and I can't predict it in my own little
Okay.
ball. So, anything else, send a carrier pigeon, call me, email me. It really was wonderful to see people there. I began to fear that I was going to be there alone. Many reps had that happen. So, and I would love it if the school board decided they wanted to, involve the school too. So, I am not taking it upon myself to call someone on the school board. I suppose I could. I hate to see me lose an opportunity. So.
I think they're on the agenda for the next energy committee
They are.
meeting, so they're working on it.
Good. Very
I think
happy.
Dan Norman does their point person for
Yes.
that project.
Good. Great. Thank
And he
you,
came to
Lori.
the last energy committee meeting that we had right after that meeting down at the district,
Mhm.
so he's aware of it.
Good. Very good.
Good.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Thank
Michelle,
you very
for
much.
your work.
We'll no doubt be talking again soon.
Sure, great. Thank you again.
Good night, Michelle.
Good night.
Okay.
The chair is warm for whoever's next.
All right. Let's see, we have some new members of the public, and you are here for,
West Dummerston Village Park.
okay, and you?
Same.
Same?
Yep.
Okay, let's see, where is that on the agenda?
At the end of
Under
unfinished
Last
business.
unfinished business.
Okay, well, with your permission, let's move it up to now, so these people, although you might want to stay for all of our meetings, but let's, so, do you want to come up?
Sure.
Oh, anybody else?
So I'm Carolyn Wilson,
Paul Chapman.
Paul Chapman,
John Gregory.
John
Gregory.
Gregory.
Gregory, okay, sure, we got your letter,
Mhm.
yeah. I'm Zeke Goodband,
Joe Cook?
You, good to see you.
yes, your neighbor,
Nice to meet you.
okay.
I'm speaking on letters. I don't know if they got the second part, the response to your letter.
No.
They got,
Okay.
there's 5 of them there.
Okay.
It's just, it doesn't have to knock down. Right, just
So-
for reference.
Right, so Q sent, I think Q sent the letter. There's-
Right, and we went back. You asked me to come here for, to ask for a meeting at the community center with possibly the select board. And for 2 days I've called her and I've got 15 people interested in coming to a meeting to discuss the issues.
Mhm.
Just wondering if you guys would be interested in hosting one. I got, people are looking at 2 dates. They got the most people to say yes to, they would be able to come on those nights, be October 18th or October 20th. 6 of them have a problem with Wednesday nights,
Uh-huh,
and then a bunch of other ones have a problem with like a 6 o'clock meeting. Like I just got here from
Mhm.
work,
yeah.
they're asking for 7 o'clock.
Mhm.
Could that be possible?
Yeah, what,
Anything's
tell me the
possible.
dates again.
18th October or October 20th?
So that's a Tuesday or a Thursday?
Tuesday or Thursday.
At 7 o'clock.
Right. Because once, some of them have, there's like a soccer game tournament,
Mhm.
something's coming on, I don't know.
Mhm.
That's 2 of them out of it for Wednesday. And Gene Momaney says you're, this would be, could be one of your 2 meetings over at the community center.
We didn't,
Was
you
she-
know, the turnout, we had 2 meetings last year and, gee, we were the only ones there for
Well,
most
she
of
said
it.
you were, the last time was the fire was across the river when you were there that night.
Oh, okay, maybe that was.
So that's an off week
Yeah,
for our select board meetings.
Right. right. So,
So it would be a special meeting.
yeah. What are people's?
Well, I think, let's start out,
Yeah.
Steve, going, Paul, why don't you guys just kind of describe what your concerns are? Let's walk through it, because I think the meeting portion of that, particularly when I talked to Terry yesterday, was whether it was gonna be us hosting it, or if we were gonna have just somebody facilitate a meeting in the village with the
I guess-
village residents to see, what the sentiment was.
Yeah.
Or if we wanted, put it on the agenda and have, essentially, make it one of our meetings and
Yeah.
talk about it. I never really put that in the thought.
From the,
But let's talk, let's
Okay.
open up, let's talk about the village parking, so,
Okay.
describe the concerns, that you have.
I'd like to see if we could iron something out, to have some sort of an ordinance that's enforceable in the village. Many of us have had issues over the years. I mean, it goes back to the West Street Arts, goes back to the apartment house with the septic issue, all the cars parked at the road. I mean, we're going back years.
Mhm.
It's been discussed probably 4 times in my, since '85. Nothing's ever been put down that's enforceable.
Mhm.
I myself would like to see something enforceable. The majority of people I talked to, the 15 people, would like to have an entire board there to hear it. Because they were interested in working out something, interested in a solution, but a solution that's in writing, that's not necessarily, the forever solution, but having something that's, black and white on the parking stuff. I drove through there the other day. The vehicles that were parked in the road was easy fixes to either put them in the driveway or shave off another foot on their side of the lawn so they'd be off the travel portion. But I think having something in writing or a town ordinance would make many of us feel better, that there's at least something that's enforceable. I know with the apartment house below me, there were 17 people in the apartment. A camper parked across the street from me, cars in the road, totally on the blacktop for 2 years. Nothing that we could do, to, other than road, and I don't believe Lee has ever towed anybody in town that I know of. So,
Yes, he has.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, not many then.
No.
Alright, I've driven fire trucks, been on the fire, there's been a few times where people have pulled out, looked down, and gone north and gone around. It doesn't happen a lot, and I can't say that it's, that we couldn't have fit through, but they just chose not to deal with it. And that concerns me. Like Harold Newell mentioned with the ambulances a few meetings ago. In a nutshell, that's what I would like. I know that there wasn't anybody there who didn't want a solution that I talked to the 15. And that's only 2 nights.
Yeah, the only ordinance that I look through is just the parking of vehicles, and that's what it comes down to.
Winter maintenance and road.
Yeah, essentially, whenever a vehicle is parked in such a manner as to interfere with snow removal or which obstructs highway department road work in the town, may be towed away at the owner's expense by Vermont.
Right.
So that's the only
Right.
ordinance.
And Steve is looking into it. State statute is just any cars that are in the road, essentially blocking.
Yeah, it said the travel, was it the travel portion?
Yeah, the
But we
travel
didn't really have a
portion of the road.
definition of that.
Yeah.
We're waiting on that to come back. Yeah,
So that's all there is right now.
yeah,
So
yeah.
how do you deal with, there are these chronic problems that how do you deal with the birthday party where,
And that's been mentioned
yeah,
before,
so.
and I'm concerned about that.
I'm just trying to figure out an ordinance,
Mhm,
black and
yes.
white, do we have a part where there's some gray area or what? That,
I don't mind
If
gray
there's
area,
a-
but what I'm concerned about is, and I've heard the party,
yeah,
but I had to deal for 2 years. How does the party compare to,
Yeah.
John here's, lived through it for years at times.
right. So an
So
ordinance will have to say, it won't, the ordinance probably wouldn't say, after a year and a half, we're going to
Do
take
something.
action.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it would be an overnight parking type thing or something, but I think the one thing we need to be careful of is that road is the state, it's a town class 3, but it's probably we need to get the information, it's got state laws that regulate it, so we can't write an ordinance that says, that contradicts that.
Right.
We just gotta be careful of how we address it without the unintended consequence of, okay, so now when I have, people over watching football and they're parked in the street for 3 or 4 hours, that's all of a sudden illegal. There's gotta be a solution, it's just how to figure it out.
I just don't feel that, and I feel for people having a party, but like I said in my letter, when you buy a house with 2 parking spots and have a party, it doesn't trump our ability to live normally without the road being jammed up. And it happens quite often. It's like your uncle. When they're trying to pull into the post office at times, it's a mess. And it's moved in the village over the years. It's been my end, it's been your end, it's been other spots. It's not a constant. But the apartment house could come back at any time.
Yeah.
Do you mean?
Yeah, I can't speak to that, I wasn't under that,
No.
that seems like that went on a little too long, but.
Yeah, but only thing that saved that, or us on that, was a septic failure.
Failures, yeah, the health thing.
So, and we went through one, you wound up being the health officer, we went through the first health officer, it didn't go well.
Yeah.
And this is one part of it'd be more difficult to pack 17 people into that apartment if parking wasn't so liberal. And that's but other people have other thoughts, and I really wish you would hear them, because there's a lot of angst right now over that, and I think they also deserve to be heard.
Okay. You saw that the DRB made a decision on
The front of the Grange?
the Blake, the
Yes.
third apartment, yeah.
Correct. But they've also, turned out to be, there's one from hidden from before, not hidden. We should have known it, we didn't, all right? My bad, but now we know only one car parked in front of the Grange, parked parallel. How can we enforce that? It's a DRB decision, I mean, there's been 5 cars parked there. You know, now that people know, I mean, that's just one spot. Do you know what I mean? One little
Yeah.
30-foot piece.
Mhm.
We got a decision, 1 car because of the well. Is there even that enforceable right now?
Yes, I think it is.
I think
But
it is the
I
tough
think-
part for the people who live
Yeah,
there.
yeah, see, I only think it is.
Yeah, that's-
I don't
yeah.
know that it is. So,
I think when we get done with these meetings, people would like to know,
mhm.
is it, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Right, if we have a meeting on the 18th or the 20th, I think we're only going to be
It's just the
able
start
to
of the
say,
process, yeah.
you know,
I understand the start of the process.
we still don't know.
Mhm.
Right.
But I'd like to work towards a solution, because right now, a lot of the houses are still in the family history.
Mhm.
They haven't started to really spread out a lot yet. 5 years from now is the turnover of some of our elderly people. I think it'd be easier right now to iron this out than it would be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I mean, there's been enough little apartments put on
Mhm.
with very limited parking. Alright?
Mhm.
Just going through the zoning and stuff, but they still have very limited parking.
And I think, unfortunately, the zoning portion of this adds to the discussion we're having, right? Enforcing the permits, the parking spaces for rental properties certainly complicates it if it's not enforced over time. When you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars in the street, add another rental property, add more cars. Add another rental property, add more cars. And certainly, we're not against rental properties or people trying to make money, but it's abused. It's certainly abused on our street. I mean, sometimes there's 12 cars, 7 cars in two properties. And I'm sure that up front, if that was dealt with the DRB, where it was permitted appropriately and made clear, you know, or enforced after if it wasn't, if a permit wasn't sought for initially, that some of these things could be ironed out and dealt with up front. I think we're in a situation now where some of those properties are abusing that a little bit, and there's more than 2 cars, there's more than 3 cars at times, and we're seeing it as, you know, people living on the street, we're seeing it. We don't want to stop people to be able to do that, but another person sells their house, becomes rental property. Another person sells their house, becomes rental property. There's no parking in that street, right? You know, there's septic issues, there's parking issues, there's just no room,
Mhm.
right? And I
Yeah.
hate to see, I mean, I'm living there, and Paul's living there because it's a nice neighborhood. I know Hugh's living there, it's a beautiful place to be, right? And more people the merrier. But I don't want to live on a street that's off, you know, property parking all the way down both sides because we allowed this to happen today. And I think it's worth listening to some of the other residents on the street, because I think they have similar opinions and they may have unique opinions, right? Just 2 of us here. But I know that it's a topic of conversation that happens amongst many of us that live in the town, you know, frequently, right? And most of the concern is not one person or a certain person, it's just what's gonna happen in 10 years, right? What's this nice neighborhood, Vermont neighborhood gonna look like in 10 years? I certainly hope it doesn't look like, you know, a rental complex every house, right? Because that's not why I'm there. So I think it's worth exploring if there is verbiage or if there is documentation we put in place to kind of regulate it, right? Hopefully without towing people and hopefully without, you know, upsetting folks, but without it, it's unclear. I certainly have absolutely no clue what the parking regulations on our street are. And in the winter, if you've ever run through there's no parking.
Yeah,
right?
it's
You
the
know,
winter's.
Well, winter's the
Good
worst
zone, yeah,
case,
winter's
right?
tough,
And the
yeah.
summers, for the most part, have been pretty good, except for, you know, certain weekends with the rental properties. But still, there's no shoulders, right?
Right.
There's just, you know, there's lawn, and then there's part of the road. And I just don't think, you know, we want to sit here 10 years from now and have this get worse and try to address it. So I would really like to see and hear what the other folks that Paul have talked to would want to say, right? And I think you're going to see a lot of common themes and a sentiment of concern, right? So
Okay. What would you like to do?
Well, I think you were not here earlier when we talked about the leaves changing, and we're certainly gonna be in budget season, having weekly meetings anyway. And I understand that not everybody can attend on a Wednesday night. What I was thinking was perhaps if we did this, put this on the agenda for 7 o'clock with one of our regularly scheduled meetings, be it the,
Community center?
yeah, at the community center on either the
Make Gene
12th,
happy.
12th or the 26th.
We have, who's coming?
Amy Wall is coming on
Okay,
as
we're
well.
having the school board on the 12th. The 26th is, let me think, someone else is coming.
Is that the economic?
Yes, okay.
Yeah,
But
But
they
they-
could meet at the community center.
right, and they said they wouldn't be very long.
Yeah. You, everyone?
I like the 26th, I'm not sure if I'll be here on the 12th, but
Okay.
I think that'll give us a little bit of time too, because.
26 is a what, Tuesday or Thursday?
A Wednesday,
Wednesday.
a Wednesday, and we could have start our regular meeting at 6 like we always do and go through all the meeting, the warrants and business that we have, and other people who are coming. And then, towards the end, more towards 7, if that,
Because some people are coming out of Greenfield and don't get out to 6:15 or so of work, so before they even get up here, it's.
yeah. So if,
We could,
like 7-ish is when we get into the parking.
But you said Wednesday is a
Wednesday, there was
challenging
4 of
night?
them, out of the 15, there was 4 of them, that Wednesday was a challenge. One is not childcare, but care issues.
Uh-huh,
And another one was work.
uh-huh.
2 others was it was like a soccer tournament, Carrie, kids, I'm not sure
Mhm.
what their, the one that's still at home. She was mentioning that,
Mhm.
though Wednesday wasn't good for.
Yeah. Wednesday's good for me, I have some work
Okay.
issues too.
Understandable.
So,
I think the 26th at 7, that's fine.
And maybe, Paul, what we could do is talk to those individuals, and
Yeah.
they can
Yeah.
submit something in
yeah,
writing that we can read,
they
or-
can
right, for folks. if
write a
they-
letter,
Right?
they can email it, it'll be part of the public
Yeah.
record.
Mhm.
Yeah, so anyone
So,
can do that.
so October 26th,
Let's,
7
Do
o'clock.
7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Community Center.
this is contingent upon the community center being available for us.
Okay.
But
I can actually walk to a meeting, this would be nice.
And if it's not available, how do we address the reschedule?
It usually is.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure
don't
there's
think
not
it's a
much going
problem.
on.
Yeah, so
Well,
let's hope for the
It
best.
would be here if it's
And
not there. but-
If, we'll get in touch, I'll get in touch with Jean tonight.
Okay.
And, in the event that they're having, it's occupied, then I'll let one of you guys know and you can spread the word. In the meantime, that'll also give us time to maybe warn it and get the word out a little bit more so we can have
Yeah, I only had 2 days, so I mean, with 15 people who
good attendance.
actively want to, and these are all
Yeah.
people who are active users of the village.
Yeah, so maybe we can get more people
Yes.
from the village.
Yeah, we need to try
Beyond
to
these
get,
15.
Mhm.
everybody in the village needs to be aware that we're gonna address it. I mean, even the
Yeah.
people who have
Yep.
the opposing view
Mhm.
need to be there, but
Mhm.
that'll give us a little bit of time too, because I spent quite a bit of time with the zoning administrator this week talking about the zoning and issues and enforceability and things like that. And
Okay.
I think it's still kind of, she's fairly, new. There's town plan issues, there's zoning issues. She clearly, needs to know. She's gotta come talk to us about these things,
Mhm.
because for her to do enforcement issues, she needs to feel, and I fully understand, that she's doing it with the intention of what the town wants her to do. Therefore, the town is supportive of her,
Right.
anything that she does as far as enforcement goes. So maybe we'll be able to have a little bit of tidying up that, prior to the 26th too. I don't think we'll have all the answers by
No, I
then, but.
don't expect all
Well,
the answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I'm really appreciative, Paul, of your effort to be in touch with people, and John, I'm really appreciative of your, the attitude that I hear in what you shared tonight. And I'm hoping that we as the select board can do whatever we can to help neighbors talk with each other and come up with something that everybody is supportive of. And if we can then, as the sort of what are we,
The
legislative body of the town, bring some strength to that and really talk about having something clear that's enforceable. I think that's great. So whatever.
I agree. I appreciate that you guys are open to listening to this. This
Oh.
is certainly, I think there's opportunity for improvement here, right? And you'd like to not to have to bring it up and everybody's happy and there's plenty of parking, but unfortunately, because of the way the village is laid out and where the road is, it's a difficult area, right?
Right.
It's unlike most of the other areas in town.
Yeah.
So it's very unique, and I know for other zoning reasons, it's been
Yeah.
very unique too, from a DRD perspective. So, we're certainly looking for people to listen, and hopefully we can come to something that everybody is happy with, even the folks that, the residents that need to park on the street, right, because they don't have the parking, right? That certainly is, I know Paul and I, we're not concerned about residents that need parking because they don't have parking, but when you add rentals to the street, you're making a conscious decision to add people and parking that could be potentially something you have to deal with. I know that's very much ingrained with the DRB, right, and the whole zoning situation. I mean, you guys, it's not just the select board, right?
Yeah.
It's also that, and I know I think it is good that you're working with them, Hugh, so that there's some continuity there, because their decisions really affect the overall parking from a zoning perspective.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it'll be a great discussion. I mean, like I said, I live there. I mean, I came back to the village after being gone for a long time, and it's a good neighborhood. I think your point is valid that, as people move in and move out, that, without it being something that's kind of standard and enforceable, it can grow. So we'll see, but I will just say that it's gotta be standard across the board.
I
It
fully agree
can't,
with
it can't be.
agree.
Yeah, it can't be, well, we can't have a rental that can't park there, but someone, it can. So, I mean, as long as we know we're going into this,
And
it's gotta be clear.
Express that with the letter
Yeah.
to Zeke. I want it across the board.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that, but I want it enforceable.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? That's, without that, is a failure to me.
Yeah.
Right, I do, I'm thinking about the process of this, and, there's talk about coming to a solution and something that's enforceable, talking about discussion, before solutions, before discussion, there's what you mentioned, John, which is listening. And so I think that we have to be careful not to want to get to the end too quickly,
No,
because otherwise then
We have to live with it, right?
Yes.
We all have to live with it.
well,
right?
you
So-
have to live with each other.
Right,
It's
that's
what
true.
you have to live
That's
with.
true. That's true.
Yeah.
Certainly, we're not here. We certainly don't want to do anything hasteful that
No.
causes conflict between neighbors. That is not the goal.
no.
The goal really is to discuss, look at options, listen to both sides, right? And then make sure that at the end of the day, we're all on
Right.
the same page with the
Well-
same set of guidelines,
Yeah.
right? Rules that we all understand are the rules,
Mhm.
right? So that when I'm talking to my neighbor A or neighbor B, we all understand these are the rules. And right now, that's not clear,
Right.
right? And it probably hasn't had to be clear. But it's getting to a point where I think some clarity there really will help those discussions between neighbors.
And my guess is it's not just about both sides. My guess is there's multiple.
Oh, it's changed.
There's a bunch of different sides or a bunch of different perspectives,
Right.
and to hear what's in people's how they're looking at it is going to be very instructive, very enlightening.
And I think part of the benefit is, and certainly the letters that have gone to the select board, I sent a letter, I know Paul sent a letter, others have communicated. There's a lot of miscommunication on what's going on. I mean, we have certain neighbors that are making some assumptions, and I think it'd be very good to get everybody in the same room,
Thank
make sure everybody understands how people feel and work through it, because certainly the intent was not to single people out, but to try and come up with something that can work for everybody.
Mhm.
And that's probably optimistic, you know, there's not a solution that fits all, but at least something that's a compromise that works for everybody.
Yep.
And I think that's a good end goal.
Great.
Thank you both for
Yeah,
coming.
Thank you,
really
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We'll
Have a
see
good
you
evening.
on the 26th. Okay, so we'll go back. Anything else on that?
No, I think that was a good solution you came up with. I was ready to meet on another night, but
You were,
Steve was here, you know,
you were gonna be so,
jabbing me with his elbow.
by the end of the year, you're gonna be so beating down.
Okay. Correspondence for information. Is there anything you would like to discuss from correspondence for information? Thank you letter from SEVCA, invitation to the VLCT, Fall Planning and Zoning Forum. Another,
Do you want to say what the DRB decision was for Lisa Blake on West Street?
it was a request for a, let's see, to add a third apartment, and the request was denied. Essentially, there weren't enough parking spaces.
Okay.
And there was a
septic as well, right?
septic and a well issue, so that was denied. And VLCT sent a letter that there are, this certainly came as no surprise, but they anticipate a rate increase for the insurance in the coming year, so.
Just on that half marathon, I don't know if that's, an annual thing, is that traffic enforcement and stuff, has this ever happened in the town before, this marathon?
They did it last year.
Did they do?
They
So
did
they
their
have-
own traffic control,
Okay.
and this year, they're not putting any porta potties in Dummerston, because last year they put it right in front of the covered bridge,
Okay,
and we had complaints about it, and so they had to come take it out before the marathon, and they put it right in front of the Green Iron Bridge, right in front of someone's house,
mhm.
who took offense to that, so they removed that as well.
Does that work just like a town notification, say that day,
Yeah,
there's gonna be a
yeah.
lot of
Right.
people running on the street?
In the
so-
morning, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, more for your information, as a courtesy, letting us know. So, under correspondence for discussion and or action, we have a letter from, or email, from Jean Momaney regarding drainage work at the community center and a request for us to mow the lawn. Steve's not here, I've been waiting for something we can have him do.
Well, I have an easy solution to one of those. How
Okay,
about
well, let's, the drainage first,
Okay,
is that,
no, I have an easier solution for the other one, but either one.
okay, let's take the easy one. We, at our last, I think the last time we had a meeting at the community center, Jean showed us there's a drainage problem, and the thought amongst the people there was that the town road crew could probably easily take care of the problem. And so this was a reminder to us
That we
to
offered
talk
to do
with
that.
Lee. And I saw Lee today and reminded him. I was sure he was at that meeting, but
So does he have it on his list now?
yes, he does. And next time you see him, you can just ask him how's the drainage at the community
Okay,
center.
will do.
Okay. All right, now the second part, mowing, they have a volunteer who mows the lawn, and who's not going to be, or was going to be away, and she asked if we could take care of mowing the lawn.
What's your solution?
I was gonna volunteer my son to mow the lawn.
I was
There you
thinking
go.
there was some good labor
Just to make it
close
work out. How's
by.
that?
All right, well,
And I meant to talk to him today about it, but he'll be
So you're speaking
surprised.
for him.
One of us will do
would you
it.
like me to send him a letter on town letterhead? or-
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
All right, no, that's a great solution.
So I will be in touch with Jean and if they need one more mowing before winter, we'll,
Excellent.
You could probably get Carter to help them.
I bet.
So
That
you could
was-
get community service hours too.
That's what I
Yeah.
would, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, yes.
brownie points too.
Yeah.
Right, because, gee, that's a much better solution than I had, because my solution,
Bring your sheep over?
no, it wasn't that, although that's not too bad, actually.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Now that you mention it, yeah.
I can bring mine if you're closer.
Yeah.
That's
there you go.
okay.
Have you got a little fencing
And
to
he
put?
could come out and water them for you.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get Melissa to let me get some.
Yeah.
Oh, it's- I can borrow
This is-
somebody.
Everybody's a
So you
winner.
could sip out of your pool.
That's right.
Okay, well, I'll leave it at that, yes, this means I don't have to bring the sheep over, good.
Okay, is that an easy enough solution?
It's an excellent solution, best one I've heard tonight. Going on to unfinished business.
I was just gonna mention on, the Blue Cross Blue Shield informational
Oh, yes.
meeting, I would be willing to attend that.
Okay, great.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I thought it was addressed more towards the town clerks, but,
I don't think so.
no, that was maybe it was just wishful reading on my part.
I think it was.
Yeah,
Okay, well, that's
yeah,
great.
Well, to be selfish, I mean,
Yeah, get breakfast out of it.
our office, I can speak for both the town and our office,
Great.
so.
Great.
That's excellent. Anything else? I sort of went, okay. That's very good. Thank you for offering to do that.
Sure.
Okay. Unfinished business, update on the Center Fire Station fundraising drive. I understand there was some stock that was,
It hasn't been transferred yet,
yeah,
but to date we have $13,650, but we're anticipating a $5,000 stock donation.
okay.
In fact, I meant to ask you about that, Lori. The revised policy that we passed at the last meeting,
Uh-huh.
do you know if that's been accepted by Edward Jones?
I believe it has, but I'm not sure.
Well,
Yeah.
Charlotte and I went and signed.
Okay,
Yeah, so it
yeah.
must be.
I'm a little surprised they didn't let us know, but
Well, I mean, maybe they'd let us know by Charlotte and me going there and letting us know.
I'll just check
Yeah,
with
I'm
Anna
out of the
Sabina.
loop on
Yeah.
that part, so.
I'll check with her.
I think if you signed,
Yeah.
we're good
Yeah.
to go.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, that's great, 5,000. Does anyone have any construction update? It's on the agenda, but I don't think there is any construction.
Just that it won't start till spring.
That's the latest that
Okay.
I've heard.
Mhm.
Well, let's see, we can go, the select board assistant job search progress. We have someone who seemed like an ideal candidate, if there can be an ideal candidate after Lori Frechette has set the gold standard for select board assistants. But it seems like the person has had second thoughts. Is that what?
He's got another job, right?
Yes.
Oh, two people.
Oh, the other person's
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh,
So-
okay.
Yes, candidate that formally applied withdrew his application. He had accepted another job.
Oh, then, okay.
And then we had another person interested, but she seems maybe to not be
Okay.
leaning in our
Would
direction.
it be helpful if somebody else talked to this person?
I think it would be great. And I'll speak with you later.
Okay.
I was going to see if I could borrow a tent and just pitch it out on her front lawn. Till she,
Well, if indeed that this person is not interested, it would seem that we need to be casting a wider net.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've been asking people left and right, actually. I've been pretty proactive.
I'd suggest we have the sheriff, when they're stopping people, give them the option of a fine for becoming the select board.
What
We don't want
That's
just
where I am.
anyone.
what advertising have we done so far?
There was an article in the Commons a couple weeks ago, it's been posted on that Front Porch Forum listserv.
It's been on the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Town
We had
website.
talked about the views, but we thought that was gonna be too late.
Yes.
But perhaps now it's no longer too late.
I think
But
it's a
the
lot about
deadline-
talking to people. I think
The,
it's a lot about.
yeah, we were going to put the yellow sandwich sign,
Which I didn't do.
yeah.
It's not a bad idea.
Right, that's how we got one of our
Road crew,
road
right?
members.
Do we remember, what is was the deadline for the views?
Yesterday.
27.
Yeah, but I'm sure that they would accept a line or two, a little box.
Would you
You want me to,
contact them?
okay?
Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah.
Great.
Great.
And let's see. All right, well. And of course, we've been broadcasting around the world on the web.
But I really think it's about, going through your day and just having it in your mind, and when, you think of somebody or you see somebody that knows people who,
Right.
I was trying to think of, what would be a potential candidate, somebody who's retired, who wants just a part-time job. So I started thinking along those lines, and then I started thinking, well, who has the skill set? So I thought about, retired teachers, So I thought of that as a group of people that might have, so I tapped those bushes a little bit, and, anyway, so.
Is there a forum through the league? Do they have any sort of a,
We have a muni net for treasurers and town clerks.
but I was wondering if they had anything else for, other employees?
Any kind of job board or something.
Right.
People probably aren't going to relocate.
Is there a
No, but-
RSVP group in Brattleboro?
Yes, there still
retired
is, yes,
senior.
part of the allocation was
Uh-huh.
for RSVP.
Not that it would be someone in that group, but somebody in that group might know somebody. It's
Sure.
I don't know.
Well, let's keep
Or,
meeting the bushes.
Yeah.
the Vermont Department of Employment and Training, when, I'm just thinking, are there any state resources that we might be able to use?
The Vermont Department of Employment has the job description. They have it posted down there.
Oh, do they?
Okay.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Alright,
Good.
well, great. Good.
Alrighty, well, I'll just keep
Okay,
tapping the
we'll
bushes.
keep pushing. I wanted to talk about, I'm calling it Life Without a Select Board Assistant, under other business when we get down to there, so.
Okay.
Anything else on the job progress or, okay. So you pretty much covered an update on the net metering project at Wyndham Solid Waste Management District was that you've gotten in touch with.
Encore, and his response was that he had all he needed from us to gather the information from Green Mountain Power and then provide essentially the 80% estimate.
When can we
As far-
expect it?
That's a good question. I don't know. I will send him another one. It took a while to get a response, but they were out, I think, out west at some kind of a conference or a convention, and he got back, and so I probably heard from him end of last week sometime that he had gotten it and didn't need anything else in the follow-up email I sent him. So I'll shoot him an email just to
Okay.
see what he thinks, what's going on.
Yeah, and when we can expect it.
Yeah.
Great, good. Okay, and we've discussed parking in West Dummerston Village, which brings us to new business. Does anyone have, my new business folder is empty. I hope. And then on to other business. And here's where we come to Life Without a Select Board Assistant. As of midnight this evening, we will no longer have a select board assistant, I am sorry to say, which means we're going to have to shoulder more of the work. So Lori is going to agree to prepare a checklist, I guess,
Mhm.
for items that we need to deal with. So I'll come in on Friday afternoons and get the correspondence for, that should be included, and get the agenda, and I'll try to have it ready to go out in a draft form on Saturday. And we'll need to finalize it at the beginning of the week. So it's
And what does that
properly
mean, to
ordered.
finalize it at the beginning of the week?
Let's see, where we can't accept any new items.
see. Okay.
So,
And it needs to be posted,
Yeah.
by Monday evening.
yes.
Who
Our,
will,
our town clerk has agreed to
does it, I wonder if the town clerk
take care of
posts
the
that.
posting.
Okay.
But then, I've just been thanking my lucky stars that we have such a competent clerk. That we had the wisdom back in March to elect.
And he ran for that position.
Well,
he
did that.
offered.
He offered that up voluntarily.
Well, I've thought about this only within the last minute. But what I would do is I would certainly offer to take the minutes of the next meeting. But what I would suggest is perhaps we rotate that responsibility amongst everybody except for Zeke. But
Well, as long as I'm out of the picture, it sounds fine.
I wonder if we could hire somebody hourly
Temporarily,
for the big meeting on the 26th.
So
That might be a tough
So,
one to keep track of.
You know, the minutes by statute, they have to have, when we, where we met, what time the meeting was called to order, who was there, if it's a select board member who wasn't there, any motions that are made, who seconded them, what the vote was. It doesn't have to be a transcript of the meeting.
I just think for that,
So-
and maybe we'll have to, but that one, if we're gonna have a pretty large crowd of people, I think if you're diverted from writing, and you're trying to pay
Yeah, I
attention to
agree.
the ebb and flow of the conversation, you're gonna get behind, you're gonna miss something, so.
We might want to, well, that would be a regular meeting, actually, it will be on the BCTV would be there.
I mean, I'd be willing to do that one because I've been less involved with the parking issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there is someone who would volunteer to take minutes at our meetings. There's a lot more to being select board assistant than taking minutes at
Yes,
our
there
meeting.
is.
So if we could find a volunteer to take minutes at our meeting, and that was their main,
Right.
and I don't know, as you said, maybe even pay somebody to do it.
The other, we have to have the minutes available and posted within its 5
it's supposed to
days.
be 5 days, yeah.
And oftentimes the BCTV is available before that 5-day period, so you can use that as a resource to go back and, check, well, who made that motion, or who seconded it, or, so without an assistant, we just are going to have to take more of
Okay,
the work. Or
yeah.
we could elect Steve to do it, since he's not here.
I mean, I'm willing to do the rotation. I don't think it should fall all on your shoulders, Joe.
Well-
But if we don't have a volunteer, we don't have somebody to hire, I will certainly be willing to take minutes at a meeting or two.
Well, if I'm gonna do the 26th, maybe if you would be willing to do the 12th.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll volunteer to do the 12th.
Okay, so just so it's clear, you
There'll
don't
be
have to,
skeletal minutes.
that's really all that's required, and, you know,
Mhm.
where's a good source to look up?
Oh, well, I mean,
The statutes.
Lori's
Yeah.
given us a
Yeah.
great, you know, I know what's necessary.
Okay,
I
Yeah.
don't,
all right,
I'll be fine.
okay, great.
I mean, it's not even so much the taking of the minutes as it is then writing them up. You know, the what you have to do afterwards.
Okay,
At the meeting isn't really a big challenge.
Alright.
And I'm not really good at typing and listening. I'm much better at writing and listening.
mhm,
So I end up then having to type up my notes.
Yeah.
So, but that's fine.
Okay.
I'll do it for the 12th.
great.
Thank you.
So, and, let's see. In situations where we've asked Lori to, you know, call this person or look up this information, that's something we're going to have to
Yep.
do. So, we're going to start earning,
You're
Our
weaning
stipends.
us.
This just,
Or is it cold turkey?
this just makes the hiring all the more urgent.
Yes.
gives us some
Look
incentive.
around yourself
Yes.
every day.
So that's all I have on that. Anyone?
I think another thing that we didn't, I'll throw this in, we still need to, and I'll, you know, still work with Lori. I didn't do anything, we haven't really moved forward with that writing, getting the ordinance set up for it,
yeah.
but we're gonna have to have that on the agenda with the hearing.
Okay,
The Wickby
So,
Hill.
the Wickby Hill.
Yeah.
Sorry, Wickby Hill. So we're just gonna need, I don't know if we'll be ready by the next meeting or not, you know.
Okay.
But I mean, it just, I say it has been forgotten. And we'll
Okay.
keep- But we'll keep it going.
Good, great. Okay, right, so if you have items for the agenda, let me know so I can get them included. Right, so, is there any other business? We need to,
I believe.
well, then,
I move we adjourn.
I will second that motion.
okay, discussion. I'd just like to thank Lori for her many years of work as select board assistant.
You're welcome.
Made the wheels of government turn much more smoothly,
Very true.
and was
Thank you.
a pleasure to work with.
Thanks.
So,
You're not getting rid of me, obviously.
I'm just trying to soften you up. Well, okay, we've got a motion, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,